Perhaps this has happened to you before. You hear the car door slam in your driveway. Footsteps approaching your front door. The doorbell rings. Someone wants to come in, have a chat, spend some time with you, but inside, you feel something you can barely describe. A deep discomfort, an inner resistance, an overwhelming urge to simply not answer. You don't hate people, and you're not angry at the world. But if you're being honest, you simply cannot bear the thought of having visitors right now. You crave your quiet home, your undisturbed peace, your protected energy. If this sounds painfully familiar, take a deep breath, because in this video, we're going to talk about something that hardly anyone openly admits. The real, intimate, and often misunderstood resistance of people who feel invaded when someone enters their personal sanctuary. And no, you are neither rude nor antisocial. According to Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, this reaction may point to something much deeper within your psychological nature. Today, we're exploring Jung's revolutionary insights about why some people feel psychologically invaded when others enter their personal space, and what this protective instinct tells us about the deeper workings of your psyche. Stay with me until the end, because if you've ever felt guilty for wanting to guard your sanctuary, you're about to discover that your soul has been trying to protect something sacred all along. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt that strange sense of relief when plans get cancelled and you can stay home alone? Drop a comment and tell me about a time when having visitors felt overwhelming. I want to know if you recognize yourself in what we're about to uncover, the energy economics of your personal space. Here's something most people fundamentally misunderstand about human psychology. We don't all recharge the same way. Carl Jung was the first to map out this invisible difference, and it changes everything about how we understand the need for solitude. Jung discovered that psychic energy flows in two completely different directions. The extrovert draws energy from external contact. Having people around fills them up, energizes them, makes them feel more alive. But the introvert operates on an entirely different system, one that our visitor-loving culture rarely acknowledges or respects. For introverts, having people in their space isn't energizing. It's energy expensive. Every interaction, every conversation, every moment of social engagement draws from an internal reservoir that can only be refilled in solitude. And when someone enters your personal space, your home, your sanctuary, they're not just visiting, they're requiring you to spend precious psychic energy that you may not have to spare. Think about it this way. Imagine your energy as a bank account. Extroverts make deposits through social interaction, but introverts make withdrawals. And having visitors is like someone asking you to make a large withdrawal when your account might already be running low. This is why that well-meaning friend who drops by unannounced can leave you feeling completely drained, even though they're perfectly lovely. It's not personal. It's not rudeness. It's your psychological operating system recognizing an energy drain and sending up warning signals. Jung understood that introversion isn't a choice or a personality quirk. It's a fundamental structure of the soul. When you try to fight against this natural energy flow, when you force yourself to welcome visitors when you're not internally prepared, you're not becoming more social. You're slowly depleting the very energy you need to show up authentically in the world. But there's something even deeper happening when someone crosses the threshold of your home. Something that touches the very core of your authentic self. The mask you must wear in your own home. Every time someone enters your personal space, something invisible but profound happens. You automatically slip into what Jung called the persona. The social mask, the version of yourself that knows how to be a good host, how to make conversation, how to appear welcoming even when you feel anything but. The persona isn't false, exactly. It's a real part of you. The part that's been trained to be socially acceptable, to put others at ease, to maintain harmony. But it's not your whole soul. Just the fragment that's learned to perform, to adapt, to meet others' expectations even in your own sanctuary. When someone knocks on your door, you don't just open a physical barrier, you activate this social mask, often when you're least prepared for it. Suddenly, you're the gracious host, the engaging conversationalist, the person who offers coffee and asks about their day. But underneath, your authentic self, the part of you that was just thinking, feeling, existing without performance, gets pushed aside. This is the exhaustion you feel after having visitors. It's not just energy depletion from social interaction. It's the specific fatigue that comes from being forced to perform in the one space where you should be free to simply be yourself. You smile while internally longing for quiet. You engage while internally craving solitude. You play the role of host while your soul begs for sanctuary. Jung recognized that this constant switching between authentic self and social persona creates a profound internal split. The more often you have to put on your mask in your own home, the further you drift from your true nature. And your psyche, in its wisdom, begins to resist. That dread you feel when someone wants to visit? It's your soul's way of saying, this is supposed to be our safe space, this is where we restore ourselves. The most heartbreaking part is that many people spend years believing they should always be available, always welcoming, always ready to receive others. They mistake this constant availability for kindness, not realizing they're slowly abandoning themselves in their own homes. But your resistance to visitors isn't selfishness. It's your psyche trying to protect something essential. The space where your authentic self can exist without performance. The shadow's territorial wisdom. Here's where Jung's insights become truly fascinating. That uncomfortable feeling you get when someone wants to visit, that almost physical resistance to opening your door. Jung would say that's not antisocial behavior. That's your shadow stepping in to guard your psychological territory. The shadow contains everything about you that you've had to suppress or hide to be socially acceptable. But it's not just negative traits. The shadow also holds your deepest truths, your authentic responses, your genuine needs that polite society has taught you to ignore. When someone wants to enter your personal space, your shadow immediately recognizes what's at stake. It knows that welcoming them will require you to suppress your real feelings, to push down your authentic responses, to prioritize their comfort over your psychological well-being. So it sends up defensive signals, discomfort, anxiety, that familiar urge to keep the door closed. This is why having unexpected visitors can trigger surprisingly intense reactions. You might find yourself feeling irritated with people you genuinely care about, frustrated by intrusions that should feel like gifts. It's not because you're difficult or ungrateful. It's because your shadow is trying to protect the integrity of your inner sanctuary. Your shadow knows something that your social conditioning has tried to make you forget. Your home isn't just a building. It's an extension of your psyche, a physical manifestation of your inner world. When someone enters that space, they're not just crossing a threshold. They're entering sacred psychological territory. Think about how different you feel in your home versus anywhere else. At home, you can think your real thoughts, feel your actual emotions, exist without the constant calculation of what's socially appropriate. Your shadow fiercely guards this freedom because it understands that without this sanctuary, your authentic self has nowhere to breathe. Jung believed that the shadow's resistance often points us toward what we most need to protect. When it recoils from unwanted visits, it's not being antisocial. It's being psychologically wise. It's preserving the one space where you can be fully yourself. But understanding your shadow's protective function is only the beginning, because what it's guarding is even more profound than you might realize. Your home as sacred psychology. In Jung's understanding, your personal space isn't just where you live. It's a symbol of your soul. Every room represents a different aspect of your psyche. and your home as a whole becomes the container where your authentic self can unfold without external pressure or judgment. When you're alone in your space, something magical happens. You don't have to manage anyone else's emotions. You don't have to monitor your facial expressions or choose your words carefully. You don't have to be on in any way. For the first time all day, you can simply exist as you are, without adaptation or performance. This is why some people become so protective of their personal space. It's not about disliking others. It's about preserving the one environment where psychological restoration can happen. Your home becomes a cocoon where your spirit can reorganize itself, where the fragments of your day can settle into coherence, where your authentic self can emerge from beneath the layers of social conditioning. When someone enters this sacred space, they inevitably change its energy. Even with the best intentions, their presence requires you to shift from internal focus to external management. You become aware of how things look, how you appear, whether they're comfortable. The inner sanctuary becomes an outer performance space. Jung saw this protective instinct as psychologically necessary. The soul needs sanctuary, literal, physical sanctuary, where it can exist without the constant pressure of social response. When this space is frequently invaded, even by people we love, the psyche can't complete its natural healing and integration processes. This is why you might feel more emotionally disrupted by surprise visitors than by planned social engagements. It's not about the inconvenience. It's about the sudden requirement to shift from soul restoration mode into host performance mode, often when your emotional resources are already depleted. Your resistance to visitors isn't about being unfriendly. It's about protecting the psychological container where your truest self can exist and heal. The call to sacred solitude. But there's something even deeper happening in your need for visitor-free space, something Jung considered one of the most important psychological processes of human life. He called it individuation, the journey toward becoming who you were truly meant to be, free from the projections and expectations of others. This process can only happen in solitude, not the loneliness of isolation, but the rich solitude of self-encounter. In those quiet moments when no one else is in your space, when you're not hosting or performing or managing anyone else's experience, something profound becomes possible. You can hear your own thoughts again. You can feel your actual feelings. You can reconnect with the person you are beneath all the social roles and adaptations. This is why your need for visitor-free time isn't antisocial. It's pre-social. It's the necessary preparation for authentic connection. Because you can't offer your real self to others if you don't know who that real self is, and you can't discover who you are while constantly adapting to the presence and needs of visitors. Having people in your space keeps you focused on external management, their comfort, their needs, their experience of being in your home. But individuation requires internal focus, the courage to turn inward and explore the landscape of your own soul without the distraction of having to tend to others. In those precious hours, when your space is entirely your own, when no one is coming to visit and no one needs to be entertained, something extraordinary can happen. You begin to remember who you are when you're not performing for anyone. You reconnect with your genuine interests, your real opinions, your authentic emotional responses. You encounter yourself as you truly are, not as others need you to be. Before we go deeper into this journey, I want to connect with you for a moment. If these insights are resonating, if you're recognizing yourself in this exploration of sacred solitude, consider subscribing to join our community of people who understand that psychological depth matters. We're creating a space for those who know that surface-level living isn't enough, and I'd love to have you be part of this meaningful conversation. This solitary self-encounter prepares you for something Jung considered essential: the ability to connect with others from a place of authenticity rather than adaptation. The hermit's protective light. In Jung's rich understanding of archetypes, there's a powerful figure that represents this necessary withdrawal from social availability: the hermit. Picture a wise figure carrying a lantern, walking alone through the darkness on a solitary path. This isn't an image of loneliness or social failure. It's a symbol of someone who understands that the most important light comes from within. The hermit archetype lives in all of us, though most people never honor its call. It's the part of your psyche that knows when you need to close the door, turn off the phone, and create space for the kind of deep inner work that can only happen in solitude. It's the wisdom that recognizes your need for visitor-free time not as selfishness, but as sacred self-care. When you feel that familiar resistance to having people in your space, when something deep inside you wants to keep the door closed and the world at bay, that's your inner hermit speaking. It's saying, there's important work to be done in the silence. There's essential healing that happens in sanctuary. There's vital self-discovery that requires space and solitude. The hermit doesn't reject visitors out of misanthropy. The hermit protects solitude because it understands that genuine connection with others can only come from those who have first learned to connect with themselves. The light the hermit carries isn't meant to stay hidden forever. It's being cultivated in solitude so it can eventually illuminate authentic relationships. This is the profound truth that visitor-obsessed culture completely misses. The hermit knows that you can't give what you don't have. If you haven't done the inner work of discovering who you truly are, work that can only happen when you're not managing the presence of others, then all your interactions will be variations of performance rather than authentic exchange. Your need to sometimes keep visitors away isn't antisocial isolation. It's preparation for the kind of deep, meaningful connection that actually nourishes both souls involved. The wisdom of sacred boundaries. Here's the beautiful paradox Jung understood. The same sensitivity that makes you protective of your personal space is exactly what makes you capable of profound connection when you choose to open your door. Your resistance to casual visitors isn't a social deficit. It's a spiritual gift that most people never develop. You see, the energy you refuse to spend on obligatory hosting becomes available for meaningful exchange when someone truly resonates with your soul. The attention you won't give to surface-level visits becomes focused, laser beam presence that can recognize and respond to authentic human depth. This is why many people who don't like casual visitors often form incredibly deep, lasting friendships. They're not interested in entertaining everyone who knocks. They're called to create genuine sanctuary for the few people who truly understand the sacredness of personal space and the gift of being welcomed into it. But this requires a completely different approach to social connection. Instead of having an open-door policy, you learn to be discerning about who you invite into your sacred space. Instead of saying yes to every social request, you learn to recognize the difference between people who will drain your sanctuary and those who will honor it. These meaningful connections don't happen through casual drop-ins or frequent social visits. They emerge through intentional invitation, through the careful cultivation of trust, through the mutual recognition that personal space is sacred and access to it is a profound gift. Jung believed this discernment was directly related to your psychological maturity. The more you understand the value of your inner sanctuary, the more selective you become about who you allow to enter it. The more you honor your need for solitude, the more meaningful your chosen connections become. This isn't about becoming a hermit or rejecting all social contact. It's about understanding that your protective instincts around visitors are actually a form of spiritual wisdom, guiding you toward relationships that honor rather than deplete your authentic self. The sacred architecture of solitude. Of course, life sometimes requires you to receive visitors, whether you feel internally prepared or not. Jung wasn't advocating for complete social isolation. He was pointing toward something more nuanced, the conscious choice of when and how you open your sacred space to others. The key is developing what we might call intentional hospitality. This means learning to distinguish between visits that will nourish your soul and those that will drain it. It means honoring your need for restorative solitude without completely cutting yourself off from meaningful connection. It means becoming selective about when you say yes to visitors and learning to say no without guilt when your soul needs sanctuary. You can learn to navigate necessary social obligations without sacrificing your psychological well-being. You can be gracious when you must receive visitors while still protecting the essential core of your private time. But this requires clear boundaries, honest self-assessment, and most importantly, a deep trust in your own psychological wisdom. When your inner alarm bells go off at the thought of visitors, listen to them. When your energy feels too depleted to host others, honor that depletion. When your soul calls for uninterrupted solitude, answer that call without apology or explanation. At the same time, remain open to the possibility of meaningful connection with those rare people who understand and respect your need for sacred space. Not everyone who wants to visit will drain your sanctuary. Some people can enter your space and somehow make it feel even more peaceful, more like home. This is the dance of conscious relationship, protecting your sacred solitude while remaining open to authentic connection, honoring your need for visitor-free time while staying available for those who truly appreciate the gift of being welcomed into your sanctuary. The truth about your soul. Here's what Jung understood that most people miss. Your discomfort with having visitors isn't a character flaw or social dysfunction. It's your soul's way of protecting something sacred until you're ready to share it authentically. The hermit doesn't avoid visitors forever. The hermit cultivates inner light in solitude so that when the right person comes along, when genuine connection beckons, there's something real and nourishing to offer. Your need for visitor-free space isn't antisocial. It's preparation for the kind of deep, meaningful relationships that honor both your sanctuary and your authentic self. Every time you honor your resistance to unwanted visits, you're choosing psychological integrity over social approval. Every time you protect your energy from draining social obligations, you're preserving your capacity for genuine connection. Every time you choose solitude over superficial socializing, you're deepening your ability to recognize and welcome those rare souls who can appreciate the gift of entering your sacred space. This isn't about becoming a hermit or rejecting all human connection. It's about understanding that your sensitivity to visitors is actually a form of spiritual discernment. You're being guided toward relationships that honor rather than exploit your inner sanctuary. Connections that understand the difference between casual socializing and sacred hospitality. Your soul knows the difference between people who want access to your space and people who understand the profound gift of being invited into it. It knows the difference between visitors who drain your energy and those who somehow restore it. It knows the difference between opening your door out of obligation and opening it from authentic welcome. So the next time someone doesn't understand why you need your space protected, remember this. You're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're following an ancient wisdom that says true intimacy begins with honoring your own need for sanctuary. Your home isn't just where you live. It's where your soul restores itself, where your authentic self can breathe, where the most important relationship of your life, the one with yourself, can flourish. Your resistance to visitors isn't empty selfishness. It's sacred self-preservation. And from that preserved sanctuary, you'll eventually open your door to the kind of connection that honors both souls involved, yours and theirs. Honor that wisdom. Your soul and your truest relationships depend on it.